The World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report 2024 emphasizes misinformation and disinformation as significant threats, particularly due to the potential rise of domestic propaganda and censorship. Now, researchers Jesse Shapiro and Scott Duke Commoners note that while social media platforms are under pressure to combat misinformation, technologies like LLM, large language models, may exacerbate the issue. They argue that current moderation strategies, such as flagging problematic posts, often fail and can even reinforce misconception when trust is lacking. However, targeted moderation of directly harmful content can still be effective. In the context of corporate cybersecurity, Abhishek Kumar Singh from Checkpoint Software Technologies discusses how organizations in Asia can strengthen their digital strategies against the increasing threat of AI-driven misinformation in 2025. Singh's insights reflect the urgent need for effective measures to protect against the evolving landscape of digital misinformation and its implications for user safety and organizational integrity.
I think the first thing that is the most important thing we all know that we have seen in the past is human is always the weakest link. So I think the first and most important thing for a start would be user education and crowdsourcing. So basically we need to train our partners, our employees, our consumer, create more awareness campaigns. But what is important to take note is a feedback loop. There has to be a feedback loop to make sure that if we are putting these campaigns in place, we have to improve the kind of like the detection rate by using these crowdsourced reporting. Another thing that we can look at it from an education or crowdsourcing perspective is gamification. Make it fun, right? I think we can kind of like make it memorable for them and through quizzes or like through some games. So I think that is something is from a user education and crowdsourcing perspective. Second aspect, I would say that it's more of like, because we say it's about misinformation, in fact, infected websites or kind of like that. I think one of the things I would say that use security solutions that basically leverage on domain spoofing or content similarity algorithms so that basically you can block those fake websites in real time. And third one, I would say that a little bit of change perspective. We always have been thinking from a defense angle. Oh, I saw this, I need to secure against that. But I think we have to change our mindset from going from a defense to an offense. What it means to say that your information may already be leaked out on the dark web today, right? So basically what we have to look at is look from an outside to inside of the organization. What is basically being exposed? What are your IPs, URLs, your web application, your cloud infrastructure? What is basically being exposed? One thing is, once you know the exposure level, if I can tell you that you were exposed, but you were already compromised. Your data is actually already on the dark web, right? Your credentials are already on the dark web. And if I basically can tell you that, is there a way to leverage on an offensive strategy to do the mitigation? So I think that is something that we need to kind of like change a little bit of thought process, right? Going from a defensive to offensive and looking at offensive to do mitigation. And again, misinformation, right? It's all about source of information, whether it's credible or trustworthy, right? So I think what basically we should look at is, in general, leverage on partners like Checkpoint, because we have threat intel, we have been doing campaign, reverse engineering, malware analysis, right? Look at us basically and being a partner to you, kind of like bring that credible information to you, so that at least when we're putting those security solutions in place, I can actually inject my threat intel into your security operations center, right? So that once you are piping all the logs to your security operations center, I'm able to enrich it with my intel information, so that you have better context. The moment you have better context, you have actionable insights. And that is where you can think from a real-time prevention perspective. So I would say that in general, really, it's all about risk. And so move towards an offensive strategy, understand your exposure, and then create the right team to combat those threats. So I would say that would be the kind of like a right strategy, like user education, bringing all the AI-based domain spoofing algorithms, and last but not the least is change your thought process from a defense to offense and about intel from Checkpoint or technology vendor like that to get into your SOC infrastructure. Okay, so this one I'll put in a different perspective first. So always basically when it comes to this thought process, we talk about AI-based defenses, right? So like technology provider like us, like Checkpoint, right? We have also been using a lot of artificial intelligence or deep machine learning or classic machine learning into our platforms. What basically it means is we have been here for 32 over years, right? 30 over years. We basically have vast amount of network traffic and data. So what basically we are doing is we are leveraging on that data set to basically identify anomalies. And this is basically directly related to misinformation, right? And if you look at it, actually, at the end of the day, you realize when we are actually analyzing it, we saw a coordinated bot traffic and unusual patterns of communication. So I think at the end of the day, if you look at leveraging on AI, it's all about looking at the patterns, making a prediction, and generating a business outcome. Now, again, a little bit different from what we are seeing in maybe in Singapore, right? Phishing is always a gateway to a ransomware. So that is where email security solutions, basically like from Checkpoint, one of our methodology that we use is NLP to identify phishing URLs, right? Phishing attacks, malicious URLs, or malware itself. So that is the AI defensive side of the house. You're using NLP, you use logistic regression, you use clustering algorithms, a couple of them, right? To kind of like make a decision, right? And it's all about pattern predictions and business decision. But one thing I always tell that how about, just now I mentioned in my previous question that if your information is leaked out, right? Can I automate the mitigation? Can I connect to your ITSM tools and basically see that your credentials are compromised? I see in your ITSM, there is a credential like that. I automatically removed it off. So I think that part of AI automation will kind of like change the way we are looking at security landscape today, right? We will continue to invest more and more in deep learning models, right? As we speak, Checkpoint already has a 55 plus in machine learning models to combat these kind of attacks. But again, from a different perspective is to induce automation to enforce those mitigations which I mentioned. Again, going back to an offensive side of the strategy. I mentioned previously is one of the things that we can look at is from a business perspective is gamification, right? So how do we gamify and make it more fun to the users so that because when you gamify it, it will be memorable. They will remember that. Second one, I would say that it's more about the online contents. You can create online context which the user can actually and make it a KPI, for example, right? Or you can generate short videos to basically create that kind of awareness. Do workshop and trainings, right? And I think these workshop and trainings basically can be in partnership with training providers like SkillsFuture, right? So basically, because if you look at it, these training providers may have partnership with universities, polytechnics, and if you kind of like bring that workshop and trainings, because with them, like a technology vendor and these training partners, we can have a better reach, right? And again, from it can go to maybe the Ministry of Education, and further we can kind of like go beyond. And again, one more thing I can say that we need to foster partnership. We have government agencies like MHA, CSA, right? We can partner with them, and along with these training partners, we can really create something very, very unique, very, very different, which can help us in preventing this kind of misinformation. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, humans are always the weakest link. They have to comply, right? In Singapore, we have POFMA, right? The Protection of Online Fraud and Manipulation Act. Then we have Foreign Countermeasures Act. We have to make sure that we are compliant to that. On top of it, we should look at transparency, right? To avoid any censorship. That's one. And again, privacy has always been important. While you are putting those content moderation, you need to make sure that the user's privacy is not violated because it is in alignment with PDPA. Okay, we should always look, whenever it comes to cyber defense or cyber attack perspective, we should always reflect back to a cyber kill chain, which is all about reconnaissance, weaponizations, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, and data exfiltration. It's like it's the anatomy of an attack, how it enters, how it basically extracts the data. So again, coming from that perspective of I mentioned about domain spoofing. So again, leverage on security solutions which basically use domain spoofing algorithms. What it basically means is it can emulate or simulate the behavior of domain generation algorithms, right? What basically is a domain generation algorithm? What they do, is basically used by malwares to create a large number of domains so that they basically can use that domains to connect to the C2 server. And that is what basically is the minimal that we should look at this point in time, right? Because understanding of the URL, right, from a DNS request perspective is very, very important. So I would say that definitely leverage on more and more AI algorithms, right? Because you have data sets, put that AI algorithm on top of it, because big data, when it is combined with machine learning, becomes an AI, right? So we have big data, put in the machine learning in place and get the necessary outcome. And I was thinking from ASEAN collaboration, there are a lot of communities across the entire ASEAN. So just came in my mind, why don't we look at a misinformation tracking center across the entire ASEAN? So if we do that, because we cannot do everything alone, right? That's collaboration is important. So if we can collaborate within ASEAN or maybe APEC or even globally, right, where the best of the best brains comes in together, right, and create that wealth repository of knowledge for us on misinformations, right, and that basically will be helpful for us to create the right campaigns that we want to bring it to the users. Again, going back to the user education at the end of the day. So misinformation tracking center is something that can be a good learning, right, from the various previous acts that have been basically already been incorporated in other parts of the world. Okay, the first thing first, I would say that we are seeing adoption of Gen AI tools within the organizations. What it basically means is employees are basically adopting ChatGPT, Bard, and stuff like that, right? And I think it's definitely to enable productivity. But again, coming from a different perspective, if I open an AI app and unintentionally I put the company sensitive information out there, right, it goes to actually public already. So I think this is something is the most concerning fact at this stage from my perspective, right, because it's a very easy way of tricking users. We have seen situations where actually so we uploaded the CV to the ChatGPT, means there was a scenario that is and there was a hidden link inside. The moment you say, basically, can you tell me whether this candidate is the right candidate for this role? Actually, the link basically automatically gets executed to say yes. So you can see that this is just one part of the equation. Your PII data can go in, your PHI data can go in, depends on different organizations that we are seeing. So again, that is the most concerning part with more and more adoption of Gen AI. So that's something that we need to kind of like look at. The second thing what we are seeing is basically a lot of data exfiltration sitting on the dark web, right? So that is something we have to see, that what are the various ways of getting to understand what is being leaked out there and what are the possibilities of takedown. And again, you write, so again, on top of it, the Gen AI protection and the dark web analysis and takedown services, AI attacks will continue to evolve, right? They will continue to, I can tell you that ransomware as a service that we saw today, next year you will see ransomware affecting supply chains. It's gonna become bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, the AI-based defenses have to continue to grow. We should enable more and more machine learning models within our platforms so that we can look at unknown unknowns.